What a lot of people don't realize though is how effective this really is. It's not just like, oh, you know, you lower your appetite a bit and you lose weight. Like, it actually makes people who have no willpower have enough willpower to lose like 50 to 60 pounds. What's up guys, Derek, moreplates.com. Today we're going to be talking about GLP-1 agonists. So I've been touching on this class of drug for several months now, as it is one of the most promising evolutions in appetite suppressants, essentially. Now, this is a relatively well-known drug in the medical community surrounding diabetes treatment, because this is something that has been effectively deployed for years on end. But more recently, the kind of tangent application of semaglutide, also branded as Ozempic or Rybelsus, or most recently, I believe it's Wegovy. You know, sick name, yeah. The first two are sick names, and then they came out with the weight loss version. The name was not as cool as the first one. It is Wegovy. Yeah. I don't know. So anyway, Ozempic and Rybelsus. This was the original iterations where the pen would shoot either 0.25 milligrams, 0.5, or 1. And then Rybelsus, I believe, is the oral preparation of semaglutide, is the actual drug. And then we have, you know, Victoza, which is liraglutide. We have, Trulicity is the dulaglutide, and then we have some others. But in general, kind of the main GLP-1s in question that most people are kind of looking at for their efficacy relative to side effect profile is, well, honestly, in my opinion, the most promising looked like liraglutide and semaglutide. Now, lira on paper doesn't actually reach target endpoints as well as semaglutide does. It's not as effective at weight loss, blood sugar management as sema. However, it has the advantage that it has such a short active life that if you respond in a volatile manner and very poorly, it can be in and out of your system within a day essentially. Whereas with semaglutide, you're looking at a weekly clearance. Like, the thing is a once a week shot. And if you respond poorly, like, you're gonna be in for a rough week. So obviously this is where titration from the lowest effective dose makes sense, and is why, you know, the prescription outlines typically, you know, describe starting at 0.25 milligrams once a week for the first 4 weeks. This is semaglutide. Then at week 5, healthcare provider might increase the dose to 0.5 milligrams once a week. And then after another 4 weeks of that, if additional blood sugar control is still needed, healthcare provider may increase the dose to 1 milligram per week. So basically, in general, the weekly kind of GLPs that are used once a week and are, you know, obviously easier to adhere to their administration schedule because of the infrequent dosing requirements is this one. This is Trulicity, also known as, you're gonna fucking focus. Oh my God, like trying to get my, there we go. Fuck. Okay, so this is Trulicity. So this thing, literally you have no choice but to jab yourself with the full 1 milligram at once with this thing. This is a once a week administration. So you literally would jab the whole pen and then fucking toss it. Then we have Victoza, also known as liraglutide, the actual drug. So this is the once a day administration. And then we have the other comparable weekly administration, which is semaglutide. I don't know if you're gonna focus. So anyway, this is semaglutide, and you know, this is also branded as Ozempic, but there are generic variants available as per, like, this is through one of my pharmacies that our clinic has access to. And yeah, so anyways, this is my comparison breakdown finally, that I have had a chance to dig into it with my own personal anecdotes rather than just referring to the clinical literature. As far as the literature goes, it suggests that semaglutide is the no-brainer go-to. And anecdotally, what have I seen so far? Well, first of all, bringing in the opinions of people who I defer to for insight on this stuff and people I feel are intelligent and high quality references. Guys like Vigorous Steve, guys like Leo, etc. A lot of people have tried this stuff now, and in general, it's kind of hit or miss what people respond best to. Like, for example, Steve, he actually likes the liraglutide the best, and it's not just because of the maneuverability you get through the daily administration schedule. Even once he tried semaglutide using a very, very entry-level dose, he was like crippled with nausea and just felt like dog shit, and so did his wife, and some of his athletes did as well. Now, other individuals respond extremely favorably to semaglutide to the point where it is literally a game changer in a fat loss aspect. Leo, he mentioned how the Trulicity literally made him have such a low appetite that even when he was smoking weed and on MK677, he still did not get hungry, which is that's massive. If you've ever got the munchies or been on MK677 where you literally have your ghrelin receptor being agonized via an artificial drug, it literally makes you want to eat your fucking house. So the fact that it can neutralize that is, very, very impressive. So for me, what did I notice? Well, I tried bombing the Trulicity. Did it work that well? To be honest, it was not that effective for me. I had more appetite suppression from stimulants, not all of them obviously, but some stimulants in general. And even like melanotan, I feel like suppresses my appetite more than Trulicity, to be honest. But again, this is the example of individual response to drugs at the end of the day. Not everyone's gonna respond the same. I've tried the liraglutide at this point, all the way up from 0.6 milligrams a day up to 1.8 milligrams per day. Did I notice a huge difference? To me, it was a bit more significant than the dulaglutide, but it was still not, as potent as I was expecting. Now what I'm doing right now is the Sema. So the Sema is supposed to be the most efficacious, and like the patients who try it get the most weight loss of any of the GLP-1 agonists, and this is the one that has just recently been approved for weight loss at the 2.4 milligram a week dose. So it is in these branded as Wegovy, however you want to pronounce it. I don't know what it is. And each pen delivers a single dose of 2.4 milligrams. So obviously it's a pretty fucking hectic dose, given that Ozempic is dosed at 0.25 upwards of max 1 milligram a week for diabetes management. And patients notice, fairly significant weight loss even at that dose. So you can imagine just how nuked your appetite and, just wanting to, like any kind of semblance of being hungry, I imagine is in the ground on 2.4 milligrams. So far I'm at 0.25 and I have not, I'll probably have to do an update video, but didn't notice a whole lot today yet, but it is early still. But I just want to give a little update because I made a lot of videos on the literature as well as anecdotal findings from people, I defer to on stuff. But now that I actually have my own personal insight, I can kind of compare them and give my stance on what is most well tolerated and effective for me personally. So far I've tried the Victoza, I have tried the Trulicity, the dulaglutide, the liraglutide, and now I'm on the semaglutide. So we shall see how that goes. But that is, as far as my opinion, comparing them, anecdotally as well as, my personal experience is not that insightful yet, obviously. And obviously, my response may not be as ideal as the average person, unfortunately. But in general, the liraglutide seems to be very well tolerated by the majority of individuals. Maybe it's not as effective as Ozempic, but it also seems to be a little bit less volatile in that you have the maneuverability and the ability to leverage the daily dosing schedule if you want to get off of it and get on it really quick. You can get out of your system super quick. If you want to get back on it, it's right back in your system very quickly. You don't have to wait for a ramp up. You don't have to worry about some sort of, escalating level of side effects. If you end up pinning semaglutide, within a fucking day, you're already feeling like shit. Like you can imagine what you're going to feel like after 2 or 3 days. So anyway, for most people, it seems like liraglutide or semaglutide are the most overall effective, although it seems like, the GLP-1s in general are a very, very unique and interesting class of medications for controlling appetite. And if you're wondering how they work, basically the pharmacology is that like GLP-1 agonists, it basically slows gastric emptying, increases insulin secretion, can actually increase beta cells in the pancreas, interestingly enough, also inhibits the release of glucagon, And what else? Was there anything else that it does? Increases production of insulin, enhances beta cells. I already mentioned that. Inhibits glucagon. Yeah, I don't think I missed anything. It's mentioned how it reduces food intake by lowering appetite, slowing down digestion. Like the mechanism of how that happens exactly is through gastric emptying, slowing it down essentially. So in this way, it decreases body fat, not through a means of like lipolysis or some like direct fat burning properties, not through beta-2 adrenergic receptor agonism or anything of that nature. Rather, it is through actual just making you less hungry and eat less. So, classic law of thermodynamics, eat less, lose weight. Now to put in perspective, like just how powerful this shit is. So I've had this on my to-do list for a while, talking about the Wegovy being approved. A lot of individuals with type 2 diabetes, like type 1 versus type 2, you have the situation of an individual who basically can't control what happens to them versus a type 2 diabetic who may have self-induced it through lifestyle and dietary choices and whatnot, and just, getting out of shape. And, certain individuals become literally, like their hormonal interactions are so dysregulated that things like leptin and ghrelin are so fucked up, and receptor signaling is so fucked up, and they're just, satiety signaling, their ability, their willpower, stuff like this is so out the window that they end up just like binge eating in a surplus for such a long duration of time that they end up, this is how you get to like the fucking massive morbidly obese people. Like, these individuals have some, chemical interactions that are resulting in them having, like, they have no willpower essentially, but what it boils down to is they have no willpower and they just overeat. And the outcome of that obviously can be, severe insulin resistance, burning out of beta cells in the pancreas, eventually inducing actual diabetes. It's not as, what a lot of people don't realize though is how effective this shit really is. It's not just like, oh, you lower your appetite a bit and you lose weight. Like, it actually makes people who have no willpower have enough willpower to lose like 50 to 60 pounds. So for example, with the Wegovy 2.4 milligram administration once a week, they're finding that individuals are losing, like this individual here, this resident never tried to control her weight with medications until she participated in the clinical trial for a new use of the diabetes drug semaglutide. In 68 weeks, she lost 63 pounds. With the trial, that light went up, she said. That was the first time I realized, wait a minute, this isn't about willpower. There's a physical aspect to this. Well, yeah, like the willpower comes from you like not fucking overeating, obviously. So like these individuals, they don't actually have, like, in the trials, they're not really going out of their way to do anything different than they do. They just, through sheer lack of wanting to eat, end up eating less. Like, they're doing portion control rather than having, like, it's not like a coach is telling them like eat, low calorie, fucking high volume, low calorie foods. It's just individuals who are just instinctually eating less because they're literally less hungry through slower gastric emptying, GLP agonism, and the actual downstream mechanisms of what's going on in their pancreas and insulin secretion and whatnot. So this drug is very promising in that you can imagine how effective it would be for somebody who has willpower normally, and it starts to go out the window a bit when they get, the leaner you get and the more calorie deprived you get, the more problematic and hard it gets to adhere to your strict diet model. But individuals who have literally zero willpower to the point that they're entered in a clinical trial for an obesity drug, if these individuals are experiencing 50 to 60 plus pounds of weight loss, like around the clock, these people are like, this is a very, very like normal outcome, like losing 30, 40 plus pounds. That's like the average of these individuals. Now, obviously this is proportional to their body weight, so they have a lot more, room to dig into when it comes to the weight loss. But in general, if somebody who is literally stuck at this body weight, morbidly obese, has no willpower, is all of a sudden able to portion properly, even eating the same calorie dense foods that they were eating probably, you can imagine how effective this would be for individuals who are a bit more calculated in their approach to dieting and the food portions as well as choices of foods that they're doing. So for me, this is an extremely promising drug, and I don't know why, so many bodybuilding gurus have like written this drug off simply because they don't incorporate it into protocols, and they don't want to not have credit for something that they don't integrate into their athletes' protocols already, I feel like. So they're like, oh yeah, you know, like it's just a new thing, you know, one of the new drugs. It's not tried and true. It's not been around, you know, so it obviously fucking sucks. And it's like, no, you just haven't learned about it yet. Like, fucking open your mind, educate yourself, and learn about new shit for once, instead of just thinking all the drugs from the 80s and 90s are the only things that work. This shit is very, very promising, and it's, you know, a potential, very, very, like, I can't see, as far as appetite suppressants go, I have not seen anything comparable to this, at least, you know, through the literature and anecdotally. Obviously, personal experience is a bit to be determined, but nothing really compares to this. You know, there's shit that are like stimulants that are gonna fry your fucking neurotransmitters if you abuse them for appetite suppression. There are things that are going to crank your fucking heart rate through the roof and give you fucking tachycardia or, you know, left ventricular hypertrophy, or cause actual like major blood pressure issues. And then there's like more benign drug like this, which does not interact with stimulatory properties, does not fuck with your brain necessarily. You know, it doesn't have no risks, but it is trialed on thousands and thousands of people. It has been tried and true in diabetes for fucking years at this point. And now entering into the weight loss space, it looks very, very promising, you know, with people losing a shit ton of weight on it, even individuals with no willpower. So anyways, as far as the comparison, it seems like on paper, you know, in the literature, semaglutide is the heavy hitter and is the most effective of the GLPs, and it seems to be the best side effect profile as well in general. Practical application among individuals who are not morbidly obese and are athletic individuals not necessarily morbidly obese, but they have high BMIs, but not actual like equivalent to a fucking like super fat person. It's like more muscle tissue. Individuals with like reasonable willpower, but you know, this could be something that potentially enhances it when needed, and or helping attenuate some of the you know, trials and tribulations of their lifestyle through, you know, bodybuilding endeavors and whatnot. These individuals, it seems like Victoza, liraglutide, and semaglutide, I believe, are the two kind of like main go-tos, although the other GLPs all seem pretty promising too in general. But you know, through the literature, it seems like, and based on the half-lives, and just be able to maneuver your drug protocol accordingly based on, you know, clearance times and whatnot. You have Lira, kind of the, I don't know, easier to manipulate compound, but potentially a bit less effective than the semaglutide. Then you have the semaglutide, which is like the heaviest hitting, best data to reinforce its efficacy in literature, blah, blah, blah. The one that's just been FDA approved at the 2.4 milligram dose, which works fucking well, even at like 0.5 to 1 milligram. So even as low as 0.25, some people don't even need to titrate higher than that for relieving their issues. So anyways, definitely something to keep an eye on, something that is interesting. And I'm very happy that my clinic has access to cost-efficient semaglutide, because this is otherwise, you know, like some of these drugs are very, very fucking cost prohibitive and expensive to the point where it's like exceeding pharma GH costs. I was like surprised to see how hard it could be to actually get your hands on this. And fortunately, there are variants coming out with generics that are a lot more affordable, and even quantities that are becoming like way more affordable. Like for example, this is like an old iteration that comes in a 2 milligram per milliliter little mini vial with only 1 milliliter in it. Still more cost efficient than the pens. However, apparently there's actually a 10 milliliter vial, a multi-dose vial that's come out, and it's like very, very cost efficient to the point where like a daily dose is like the price of one vial relative to, you know, the pens. You would be saving like fucking thousands of dollars. So very happy to see that, very happy to see us having access to it, and I'm looking forward to seeing the development and kind of progression of the GLPs in the future. Very, very promising novel class of medications, and I am glad to be able to bring that information forward, because, you know, a more obscure thing that may be a, you know, safer approach to some of the shit that people are doing for appetite suppression nowadays. So anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Stay tuned for more updates and whatnot. Like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplacemordates.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplacemordates, Facebook, Snapchat, BitChute, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below. You can also check out my HRT clinic Obviously, we have access to the majority of the GLP-1 agonists through our compounding pharmacies we use, including the like the generic variants like the semaglutide, like I mentioned. Yeah, obviously, if you want high quality oversight for hormone replacement therapy or any kind of optimization endeavors, regardless if it's pharmaceutical related or not, just having a high quality doctor who understands biomarker assessment and whatnot to look at your shit and your blood work is of critical importance. If you're natural or enhanced or a guy on TRT or whatever the fuck, having a good doctor is important. So obviously going through finding somebody who is vetted and is going to be able to give you high quality information and is not just looking to make a markup on a medication, like a cookie cutter clinic who wants to get you on 200 mgs a test, fucking HCG or anastrozole, blah, 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 and kick you out the door. It's not like that at all. So anyways, if you want access to that, you can check it out in the video description below, as well as the recommended lab tests and diagnostics. And anything else I'm associated with, it is all in the video description below. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.